we are now live on Facebook, on YouTube and Facebook for this session on why am I not getting hired. A very interesting panel. I'm glad to welcome all of you on the behalf of MyWays and all of those who have joined the session today. We're going to discuss about how HR actually look at us as freshers. How do they look at us? We want this answer of why actually you're not hiring us, why you're not hiring freshers, what are the reasons. We want to know all of those. For moderating the session, we have the founder and CEO of ForeignAdmits, Nikhil Jain, who is IDBJO grad, and he has been very, very communicative with the students. You can find him on LinkedIn. He has solutions to most of the student issues out there, a really good mentor. And I think he will be the right person to put forward all of those questions about hiring to the eminent panelists. Over to you, Nikhil. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, MyWays. Thanks, Amyak. So let's get this started. So all of the freshers, are you excited? Put it in the comments. What are your questions? And we'll definitely answer all of those questions. And I believe coming from an engineering background, it's more like, everyone on the panel has been a fresher. So everyone can relate to your pains in one or the other ways. And what we are going to discuss now, most of us are on the other side of the table. So now we are going to help you out in discovering what the other side of the table actually looks for you, looks into you. Okay. So for this, we have three really eminent experts. So we have Sanjeev Maheshwari. Sanjeev is again one of my mentor also. He's currently the founder of Career Pyramids. He holds 2 decades of experience in hiring and recruitment. He's the former VP of JobsAhead, which was acquired by Monster.com, a renowned job portal in the recruitment industry. And he's also an alumni of XLRI and IDBJO. So, and next we have Amrita. Amrita holds almost 2 decades of experience in recruitment and HR. She's right now working into HCL as the VP of HR and handles rewards and talent management. Trust me, guys, when you are a fresher among these candidates in these experience, you also get to be nervous. And that's a very common thing that we're also going to discuss. And then we have a buddy, Varun. Varun also holds a huge amount of almost like a decade experience into employee relationships. And right now he is working in GrabOn and handling the employee relations. So the first and most important thing that we are going to discuss, and that is the pain point for all the freshers. Hey, why are you not getting hired? And this kind of thing is more rampant now because there's huge amount of tech talents that every startup or every company is looking at. At the same time, the freshers are looking at jobs, but still there is something that is missing out and they're not converting. We do get almost a lot of requests. Hey, I'm hiring a developer. Hey, I'm hiring a leads developer and all of those kinds of talents. But then at the end, we're not getting those talents. So from a, big giant company recruitment perspective, Amrita, can you throw some light about what are the hiring policies for freshers that you look at? And then probably from the startup perspective, Varun can take over. And then we'll hear Sanjeev's comment on this.
Sure. Thanks, Nikhil, and thanks to all the viewers who are live with us right now. I think it's a great opportunity to talking to, a lot of you as freshers or even experienced who are looking for a change or joining various industries and organizations. A little bit about myself. I've been with HCL for almost good 13 years now. Worked with HR, as Nikhil said, for almost last 2 decades in various areas. And today I manage the total rewards, talent management for HCL Technologies based out of Delhi, Noida, basically. We are proud to say that we hire a lot of freshers. So I think there is a lot which goes in terms of understanding what kind of people we need for our organizations. In fact, with the last year's COVID, the industry really went through a turmoil. Thankfully, IT services have been doing well, and I'm sure some of you have been watching results for a lot of us in the space. Our growth has been steady, and we are doing well on those. We've hired some 13,000 freshers, engineers in last 2 quarters, which was basically OND and JFM. So it's been phenomenal journey as an organization, and we are we are kind of developing a lot of new things in the fresher world, not just engineers. We are looking at various cohorts of people, whether they are engineers, they are BSc grads, we've gone down a level wherein we are looking at people passing out from schools, which is +2, and then how can they be groomed as a better engineer while they're doing engineer with us, and they're getting a on project exposure as well. So when we hire, I think I'll just put across two things, which is very important from an HCL. While I understand today everything is around skills. I mean, no more. I think resumes will not fetch your jobs if you don't have the skills for which one is hiring. So when you're a fresher, the ambit is different because you will be groomed in various skills on which for which organization is working or what is the project demand at our end. But as an individual, I think all of you or all of us have to start focusing on skills rather than just your resumes. I think that's the key to the world today. I mean, skill has become the buzzword. I mean, even if you hire somebody, the hiring can be seamless. But when you get into an organization, you are trained on these skills. And when you're trained on these skills, where will you get staffed? How will you get future will get aligned? All this depends on what kind of skills do you hire for. So apart from skill, if I look at from an organization standpoint, we look at two key things, I would say, from an HCL standpoint. One is culture, for sure, because and for any large organization or forget large, I would say any organization, culture is important. You need to understand what kind of culture the organization displays. And it is very, very, today what happens, you just walk in. I mean, when I interview people, even for my teams in HR, fresh management graduates from these schools, when they walk into your rooms or when we do video meetings to talk to them, I think they're just so focused on what they know they're focused about. It is important that you know beyond yourself. I think that's what we check as a company. So it's not just skills. It is important that what you know about the company, how you know about the company, the research about the company. So you need to read up about the company when you get into the company campus and say, hey, HCL, how big it is, what is the revenue, who's the CEO, basic questions. But when somebody asks you these questions, you are trying to portray that you are beyond yourself, you're beyond your engineering college, and you understand a little more about the business we are into. The second thing is, I think every recruiter would look at it is the passion, because that's second thing which no skill can teach you. I mean, even if you are skilled or you are a skill in which we are wanting to hire, you have to display that passion, that you're excited about the opportunity, you're excited to join the organization, and why and how you will add value to the organization is also important. So I think these three key things are there when we look at any hiring, at any level for that matter. But freshers is becoming important because our intention is that they are going to stay with us for longer duration. They're going to build next set of generation leaders for us as an organization. So those are key things from my side. Thank you.
Interesting. So I think from the corporate perspective, also corporate is now looking a little bit more startup-ish, I would say. So, but let's hear from the startup, because I feel now startups are also on the hiring spree, and Varun can throw some light about how startups.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Nikhil. And very honored to be here, especially with Amrita and Sanjeev over here. I myself feel like a fresher right now. So, but yeah, talking from a startup point of view, especially, thing is, the way a startup hires is a lot different from that of an MNC. Because especially in a startup, if you talk about a bootstrap startup, especially, we don't have the amount of people in the recruiting team or the HR team to search for candidates, search for that talent that is out there. So what really helps us is if the candidate comes to us directly. So networking is very important if you want to get into a startup. If you can use like social platforms like LinkedIn, and just decide what startups are there in your city or wherever you want to work at, and just reach out to the recruitment team, the recruiters, the HR personnel, or the hiring managers, or even the founders of the startup. Just sending them a message, telling them how glad you'd be to join them, and telling them a little bit about what what skills you have, what you've done in the past. That takes you a long way in getting hired in these startups. I know that because that's something we see, which I'm seeing personally in the company that I'm working at. A lot of the people that we hire, it's people who have reached out to us and showed their interest to join the company. And so that's definitely one thing. It's the networking part. The second thing is it's a lot of people, like especially freshers, they don't exactly know what it is like to work at a startup. It's a lot different from an MNC. So, like, especially me, since I worked at both. I worked at Amazon and Deloitte as well as two other startups. So I think I could say that a lot of freshers, because they would have people, they would have cousins, they would have brothers, they would have friends who have worked in MNCs. And when they're applying for startups, they think that it should be something similar to how it's like in an MNC. And when they come to a startup, they realize that it's not, and there's a lot of chaos, and the processes are not there, the structure might not be there, and you're like, something is getting messed up every day, and there's all that stress that is on you. So, I'm sorry, I think there's a background noise coming. Am I clear? Oh, it's clear. Okay, thanks. So that's one thing as well. Like, freshers need to realize that what it is like to work at a startup. It's ask your friends, ask someone who has worked there before. I mean, the world of social networking, you could just like reach out to someone, connect with someone on LinkedIn, and just ask them a few questions like, "What is your experience? Do you think I'd be the right fit for it or not?" And just do that homework beforehand, and I think you'll be in a much better position to get hired. Yeah, that's from my side.
Interesting. So now over to Sanjeev for a quick pointer, because I think you have managed more on the middle tier segments, people with 2 to 5, 8 years of experience, and changing jobs is always difficult, right? And there's always a question, sir, why I'm not getting hired? I'm doing all the things which may be asked. And then what are the things that usually people misses out?
Okay. Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Amrita and Varun. I think both of you have really pointed out very clearly in terms of what are the expectations from freshers, whether it's in terms of preparation for about the company, then the passion and understanding the culture of the company. And as Varun pointed out about difference in an MNC and what say the startup, what should one expect? So I would say important things which are there for fresher or even for any experienced person to get hired. I can't overemphasize the point which Amrita has said. One is prepare about the company. Know about the company, know about where are you going to go into the company. Like the moment I say HCL is a huge company, it's a behemoth. Now there are tens of companies, subsidiaries, associates. If you are going to that group, first of all, you should do a lot of research to understand where is it that you are going to go. So if you go with that clear mind, then the moment you meet Amrita and you are able to tell her this is what you are looking for, she knows that you have done your research. So whatever you are saying, if you can back it up with your research, if you can back it up with examples. For example, for freshers, a couple of things which everyone will see is one is your academic result, because there is not much to see beyond that. Then you have some extracurricular activities. And a typical question which most companies will end up asking if they don't have an aptitude or any kind of psychometric test, then they will end up asking what are your strengths, or sometimes even they will ask what are your weaknesses. So if you are telling about your strengths, always tell it with an example, because I know a lot of companies will need to resort to these questions when they don't have those other aspects through which to do this screening. So whatever you are saying in your interview, first be prepared about the company, be prepared about yourself, and in between also be prepared about the job. If you know what is it that the job requirement is, if you already know that this is the job you are going to go, Then do some research about the job itself. What is the expectation in an HCL versus a Wipro versus an Infosys. If you can do that, and if you can throw that light in the interview that, okay, this is why I'm expecting, or this is why I want to join HCL versus another company, another competitor, then you are sure and you are making a very clear point that we have thought about it, and you will take the job when they give it to you, rather than going to another competition. So these 2-3 points about research about company, research about job, and research about yourself, and whatever you are saying, always supporting it with an example. If you say that I have done so and so course, tell them what did you exactly do, what project you did, what did you learn, which was so that you are, what you are saying, there is the backing of it. There is a clarity that the person across the table understands that yes, you have actually done it, and you are not just saying it. Because I have seen a lot of time freshers, in an attempt to impress the interviewers, say a lot of things which they may not have done, or they would simply try to hype it up. They will make hyperboles out of small things. So that is something which they need to understand, that interviewer is often able to understand very clearly and see through. So try to avoid that tendency. It's an unfortunate thing, but of course that is what you are fresher and you are green, and you think you are trying to impress, but it just goes against you at times. And in fact, most of the times, if you are trying to inflate something. So try to be on the ground, try to say as much as you know, and try to support whatever you are saying. I know that yes, you have actually done it. So these are 2-3 things which are important. Now, coming to things which you have given me as a pointer as to talk about uh, employment and hiring enablers. So upskilling and mentoring platforms. So upskilling, of course, I think a lot of freshers these days, all the college goers, they are all much more intelligent than what they used to be, say 5 years, 10 years back, because now they are aware of different platforms which are upskilling them. So along with their studies, they are always taking more courses, additional syllabus they are doing, or extra courses they are doing. So that is what I think all of us know about upskilling, and they also must do upskilling. So naturally, if you are trying to specialize in machine language and then you want to go and do that job, then it always helps if you have done something extra, whether it is one course or even 2 courses or whatever extra you have done besides what your college is doing. So that is important to express yourself and to impress upon your prospective employer, that yes, we have done some upfront work, and if they take you, they will have a reason to take you versus others who may have not even started on that path. So that is something which is very important. And then of course, hiring enablers and employment enablers, the more you know about the company, the better it is. And of course, there's a very important aspect about vocational training. I guess most of the people we are addressing have done some kind of vocational training. So sometimes it becomes an eyewash where people go and just take a certificate and don't even go to the companies and attend it. So it's always better to go and actually get the real life experience, because it will always show in your interview. And interviewer, trust me, is often struggling about what to ask a fresher. So those are very good conversation starting points. If you've done something good, you should explain it yourself, whether it's a training, some particular project you have done, or in your own engineering project that you have done, or any particular subject which is relevant to that company which you have studied, or you have studied a particular aspect more than what others would have studied. So that's always a good conversation point if you can give it to your employer. So that I feel can help you in your interviews. Then about mentoring, of course, it is always meaningful to have someone who's working in a similar industry or same company where you want to go, to have them as a mentor. And I'm sure today in the connected world, it is much easier to connect on LinkedIn or even through your rest of the social interactions that you have. So I feel these are some points which I think are important for freshers to keep in
That's
mind.
great. I think you talked about majority of the positive things which any of the freshers should keep in mind and add up upon this. But now let's talk about the major pitfalls or the major mistakes that even knowingly or unknowingly freshers end up doing, which acts almost like deadly for their applications. The applications are not going through. And I've seen like people applying to 50, 80 companies and are not hearing back, and just having that sense of self rejection that they're not worth it. So what are the pitfalls or what are the major mistakes that as a recruiter that let's say Amrita or Varun, anyone can pick this up, that students do, and you can you can guide them to avoid. Like these are the few things that students should avoid.
I think,
I
Varun,
think
would you like to take that? Recently, if you have met a lot of freshers, maybe you should take that, Varun.
Sure. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take this up. So I think the biggest pitfall which I've noticed is it's when the mindset is not matching what we require from a fresher and the mindset which they have currently. Like going back to what I've said before, when they don't know what they're getting into, like getting into a startup, you need to have this proactive mindset where you have to show that you have faced problems before and how you have faced those problems. So sometimes, like in these HR interviews, we'll ask questions like, tell me about a time where you've had a conflict with your teacher, or any kind. If you've worked before, if you interned somewhere before, then your manager. And if you kind of see that in them where they're just complaining and complaining, then you know that it's going to happen here as well, because startups especially, they're not perfect, and something or another will go wrong any day. And you need people who would take that in the right spirit, in the learning spirit, and try to find a solution for that instead of just complaining and just making the whole atmosphere a little dull. So I think that's one major thing which I've noticed.
interesting. So Amrita, I
Yeah.
think you guys have hired like 10,000 plus freshers, so
Yeah.
there should be some data to help us understand.
Yeah, I think I will agree. So what Varun said, see, when the candidates would have cleared their technical, and there are platforms, as rightly Sanjeev said, based on those scores, you have a shortlisted set of people who would come and meet you, right? I mean, and when we as an HR professionals meet them, what are we trying to look at them? We're trying to look at them as we know that's not 100% fit one would get, but something closer, 80%, 75 to 18 is a good match, I would say, for any of the matter for that matter. Now, what I feel, and recently I have been involved in interviewing some of the IIT grads when they were going through the SMT, the business school, and I was one of the panelists for interviewing them. And I think that goes with anybody when you're hiring for a job itself. What I intend to look at is, and I said this earlier as well, that what do you know about what world is doing today? So, for example, simple topics like the farmers' protest. Do you know exactly what is the new bill? Or for that matter, if somebody is in HR, there is a whole lot of code of wages which has come up as a change in the industry. Basic stuff, but if somebody is not able to answer what is happening in and around in your country, and I'm not asking about a economic affair in US, or what's economic policy, those are not something I'm asking, but something which is very basic. But if you are not reading about it, so it's basically goes back to how much you're reading and how much you are knowing about your world. So I think that's something which I see a lot of youngsters missing on. I mean, they might be glued to their own subject, they might be glued to gaming and a lot of media, but the basic reading which one wants is sometimes missing. So I think that gives us a feeling that the person is not aware, is not smart enough to see what's happening in the world outside him, right? And those are something which will influence him as well in the aspect. And the second thing I think where we might be a little biased on that, but I tend to look at it as the confidence level. Uh, you know, if you are honest, like as exactly Sanjeev said, if you're honest and you are explaining the bit with an example, it just reinforces that you've done this with your hand, even if there are mistakes on it. But if you just try to fap up a story, you will get caught somewhere or the other. I think so. The importance, also from my perspective, is that how confident you are presenting yourself. At times, what happened, you might be an excellent, you might have scored excellent well on your skills, but as an organization, when we are hiring people, we are hiring them for future. We are hiring them to be the next project managers. We are hiring them to be the next people who will represent the company in front of customers. So that confidence is also important, and I'm 100% sure it will come over a period of time. But if you're not able to present your facts confidently, that doesn't give us any comfort as recruiters when we hire people. I think those are very commonly I've seen people where I tend to not choose them because I think they're lacking on the basics. That's my point of view.
Interesting. Yep.
So,
Sanjeev.
Nikhil, I would like to add one point from where you said that when freshers apply to 50 companies, 60 companies, I would say it is being foolish, because it is humanly not possible to research that many companies. So one must limit depending on how you are academically and how you are personality wise. So if you don't get this view from some other people whom you know today. It's very easy to connect with people in HR or some of your seniors. Ask them, should you apply to X company or not? Because it's not humanly possible to research more than 5-7 companies.
Absolutely.
So if you research P&G and Unilever while you are in the middle of the class or at the bottom of the class, you are just wasting your efforts. So better, because academics as well as your personality type, if you can assess. Suppose you are not ready to even assess your own personality type or ask anyone whether I will be suitable for X company or not. At least academically, you know very well where you stand. It's very clear, right? It's black and white. So you know that Infosys takes only X people who are 1, 2, 3 first divisions in this. TCS takes only this. So you must not prepare more than 5-7 companies. If you're applying to more than 5-7 companies at one time, it is utter waste of effort, I would say. At one time, anytime, if 5 to 7 job openings are open for you where you are still undergoing a process, anything more than that is not feasible to control, according to me. Whether even after you have finished your education and you are only doing job search full time, I'm talking about, then also it's not feasible. So one must at first, in the beginning, only be sure that these are the companies which I will be able to make it to. So keep a couple of companies better than those. Keep a couple of companies which are lesser than those in terms of brand, in terms of the kind of quality of people they take, and target there. If you're not able to do that, then really take some paid mentoring if required. Otherwise you will be only wasting your effort. That's my sincere thought and advice to everyone. One is your own academics, where you stand, whatever the reason is, the result is there to see. Second, your own personality. Suppose you are a very structured thinker in an organized manner and you know processes are important for me, don't even try going towards startups. You will waste yourself. Even if you get a job, you will be frustrated very soon and you will move out. Versus if you want to try that word, and you are such a person who is dynamic and who would go out and who would fit into that kind of a culture, then you should try there. Otherwise, simply because there's a big startup or a good name and they're hiring people, you should not go there and frustrate yourself in 3 months, 6 months. Nobody, you don't add any value to yourself and you waste organization's effort as well as your own time, I would say.
Interesting. I think one of the very key insights that I see on LinkedIn, and I think this is a red alert for a lot of people. There are a lot of noise out there on social media, about how to apply. There's always a hope selling, you be creative, you write to the founders. All having said that, you need to have something in your profile when you're writing to the founder and, being out of the box as an applicant. You stand out because nowadays recruitment on other side has been really competitive for startups also, or for any MNCs to retain the talent, to get that kind of a talent. Because if there's a talented person, there are at least 10 or 20 takers for that talent, right? So from the hiring point of view, what are the things that these talented individuals who may not have maybe a couple of extra skills, maybe a couple of soft skills, because soft skill is something that has been majorly overlooked in the regular traditional Indian education system that we have seen. We are not well trained. I'm talking from the IT perspective and even from the other college perspective. We are not well trained to about how to speak to a recruiter, how to write those LinkedIn messages, how to keep our email in within 2 or 3 paragraphs, instead of like a whole essay. So those preciseness is very, very important, which most of the students usually miss out in terms of the desperation or the frustration or being in the hurry. I believe, and just raise your hand if you have seen this, hello, Mr. X or Mr. Y, can you review my profile and get me a job? Or can you get me a job? This has been the regular trend, and I would say these are from my understanding, these are the one of the most deadliest mistake that you should not do. You would not create a good impression in future. Also, if you are looking for it, the reputation has gone down because of such messages that you would have sent. So be very cautious in when you are reaching out to relevant person who could be a decision maker for your process and also could be an influencer in that decision making. So whatever you're commenting on LinkedIn and social media, it also gets reviewed. If I'm seeing a lot of negative comments from you on startups, I may not be able to hire you because I feel this guy is a little bit more negative towards the startup culture. So those are the things. And as I think that Sanjeev sir clearly mentioned, if you want to get a 9 to 5 kind of a thing, have a little bit of stability, probably a multinational company which has structured organized processes, there's a time framework, it's good for you. I'm not saying that multinational don't demand. There's also a great demand for the kind of work that you'll be doing, and consistency is really important. But then if you're going for early stage startup, be prepared to work 12, 16 hours a day, and be prepared for even sometimes the later pay. So there are X number of nuances that you would get to see in both the kinds. So having an assessment first is very, very critical so that you don't end up again doing the same mistake, 50 applications, no results. But now, all three of you, I have a very interesting question. What are the things a student can do in during their applications or during their approach, which would make you guys get some help in hiring them? Because I feel if I'm making the recruiter's job easy, I might get hired faster.
So for me, it
Yeah.
is very clearly, if you can just write your objective, when I see a profile, if you are clear that this is what you want to do, you say it upfront in one line, then you put an objective. But if you're not clear, if you're just looking for a job, then naturally you cannot do it. So it depends on how clear you are. If you're clear that you want to get into a startup and you want to do X kind of coding and you've done this course, just write it in first line on top. That is what will be winner CV for me, very simply put.
Right. If to add on to that, I think if I were to lay it down like exactly what someone would do, what someone can do, and what I would do if I were in that in their shoes, is I would probably just go to the companies or the startups LinkedIn page. I'll look at whatever jobs are are out there. I'll read through job descriptions. I'll see which one matches my skill set the most, and then I would like send out that message to the hiring manager or the HR or the founder that this is I feel that I am the right person for this job because of this. These are the skills I have which match the JD over here, and I'll just lay it down for them, make it very easy for them. And that is, it's just wonderful to see whenever you come to office and you see an email or a message like that. It just gets your work done. So that's exactly what I would do if I were in their shoes.
Amrita, you're on mute.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think what makes our life easier would be if it's very important that somebody's looked up the job first in terms of what the job needs, and then you actually create I would not say create a resume, but at least write an email which talks about matching that job requirement. It doesn't interest me at all if I'm looking at say for example, I'm looking at a comp and ben professional in HR, and I get a resume who's done only hiring in his career. It just doesn't help. It doesn't have any interest for me. So I think, that's what every one of us is trying to say. It's important that you understand, you read the job spec, you understand the job spec, and it might be that you're not suitable for it. Don't apply, don't waste your time and don't waste recruiter's time, because he will just move it to the junk. He's not even looking at your resume for that matter. I guess that's the biggest thing one would do, because rest is only when you meet. I mean, papers can't talk, but one is your academic qualification, which really impresses a HR or a recruiter for that matter. And second is his own proximity to the role. So I think if that proximity is there, even if you've done a project in that area, pull that project up in the conversation, because that's where the proximity comes to the role, and the recruiter is wanting to hire you for that. So I think that's definitely the key. A lot of people write emails. Yeah, you're right. I mean, they would write pretty much everything about the soft skill they would know. about interpersonal skills, about how they have managed it. It doesn't interest the recruiter because he has to read 300 such emails to get to the 5 profiles he's looking at. So I think that will save time for both of you. That's
Yeah.
my. So.
That's great. I think from my experience, and not to boast, but I remember getting at least over 20 off-campus jobs in my IIT days. I'm always proud of it. And the reason now I reflect back and see that I always made my recruiter's job easier. If I'm writing to, I remember writing to one of the early stage well-funded startup, I wrote to them a proper two-pager, these are the things that your startup is not doing really good at. And these are the things where I can really help you and scale from X to Y. And these are my qualities. Instead of a resume, I just wrote them, this is the problem statement that I feel your startup is solving, and I can help you do this. And immediately in three conversations, I was hired. So, you get to commit to some companies, and I never applied to 50, 60 companies. So I would recommend, if you do those researches and try to make it more customized or try to add value to the recruiter's journey or to the founders or any particular person that you're reaching out to the job, if you helping them do their job easily, there's a very high likelihood that you would be at least preferred for that first round of conversation. And from there, if you have the skills, if you have the merits, there's a very quick hiring, because no one would like to make the talent set on the bench in this current world where there's a real talent shortage. And this is an early insight. Yes, there's a talent shortage at most of the organizations, because every single one wants to either hire the talent, retain the talent, and keep them, because getting a good talent is always difficult. So if you are talented, you would be always in demand. It's just that how you're approaching makes a whole new difference. you know so I think one last thing, because the approach is very, very important. Any particular experience that you guys want to share where a candidate would have exceeded your expectations? I was expecting, like, I can give one example. I remember hiring an intern from a biotech department, and he took up a project which was nowhere listed in our, I would say, to-do list. But seeing the problem that we were facing with one of the big company, he designed everything by himself just because he was good at content writing. He used some of the basic no-code tools and designed a product for us and gave it to us. That this is what I feel. And he was ideally an email marketing intern, and he did a product out of it. So that was like exceeding the expectations for me, because when you do something for the organization selflessly, you get that respect that even right now, even after he's graduated and gone, I'm still talking about him. So that's the kind of expectations for me. I feel if you're doing a little extra out of your job for the company always value that. So all of you can share your.
I think I can go next. I've just hired. I've just hired somebody in the performance team, and fresh management graduate. But what interested me is that when I spoke to him, he was able to correlate our last 3-year data in terms of our performance in our revenues, right, and correlate it with the competition, and present a point of view in the sense that why he felt that XYZ company was doing better than us, or we were doing better in a particular line of service. Like, for example, our infrastructure division was doing better, and he compared the revenues of like the competition and brought the point of view that why he thinks that HCL in the infrastructure world is doing better than XYZ. I think that was so inquisitive for me, because I was not expecting an intern to come, a management graduate to come and present on our final review, on a final meeting when he has met a couple of more people, and give me a perspective on that, because that was not the ask, or a business case study we had given him. That was not the ask at all. I think so that surprised me really well. And I just go back to my point, which I've been trying to say, that he did that effort, that he knew that the job is for the performance team. He knew that what does that team is responsible to drive for the organization, and therefore what will the job entail for him. And he was able to correlate few facts which are available in public domain to present to the interviewers at his interview. And I would say he won hands down, because I think I didn't even meet anybody after that. I said, this guy knows exactly why I want to hire somebody at this. And he's just a management graduate, and he has to go a long way to understand the ropes and understand the company and then perform. But that's pretty much which kind of really intrigued me. That people go all the way down to kind of read a lot about it and create a value for the organization, even on the interviewing desk. So I think that was interesting for me.
So, Varun.
Right. If I were to share my experience, I think I'll talk about someone who I've hired for my team itself. When I was looking for a recruiter, I think it had been about like a couple of months. I was interviewing a lot of people, and I was just not finding, like, I was just not happy with whoever was coming in and giving those interviews, and something was just not feeling right. And so there was this guy who I kind of knew. I did not know him that well. He was an ex-colleague, but we were like on the we were both friends on Instagram, and I used to see him he was a bodybuilder. He was into fitness a lot, so he would always wake up like 4:30 in the morning every day, post a story working out. He would show his results over there and things like that. So I thought, it would be nice if this guy, would be in my team. And it was kind of it was coincidental, where he himself reached out to me when I posted a job on my Instagram about like I wanted a recruiter, and I was like, yeah, man, like just like give the interview, even though he had no experience at all. I knew that those are some things I could just teach him, and he's turned out to be a rock star in the organization, like just because of his discipline and things like that. So I think that's one thing.
Interesting. Sanjeev sir, any experience? I think you would have many. But yeah.
I would say same insight as Amrita has shared. If you can prove that you will hit the road running, you already know what you are expected to do. If you can prove that, and if you can do some background work and show it during interview, I think that will make you the star. That means you will exceed the expectation, at least during the interview, for sure.
Great. So I think the key takeaways from this session was definitely doing a proper research before reaching out to the recruiter, making the recruiter's job easy for them to assess you. And if you want to stand out of the box, you are showcasing yourself out in social media in an appropriate manner is very critical. What you are doing, and if you're doing something, it could be a hobby, it could be as simple as that, going to gym every day and posting a story. Imagine, there are endless possibilities, right? So if you're doing something, you can probably showcase it in social media, and you never know who is watching that. So, and again, building a network, building a circle, a healthy network, which is growing, is going to really help you out. And then doing that X factor thing, if you can bring some insights, it could be a very, simpler insights, but you have attempted, you are already, ahead or probably distinguished from the regular candidates who never thought of it. If you're doing something common, either you have to be really brutally good at it so that the brutal competition cannot kill you at that point of time, or else you have to do something creative to be able to attract that attention, to be able to showcase your commitment that you went out of the league and did something. So these are the few key takeaways. Now we'll move towards the questions. We have a couple of questions right now. So the first question that we have is from a typical mechanical engineering student. And we all know, like, engineering jobs are really difficult, but now engineering is now merging in towards the tech side of it also. So any particular suggestions that you guys have for any of the core engineering guys who are trying to get into the domain?
I'm not very sure if I understood the question, but if I understand correctly, what he's saying is, from core engineering, how do I move into tech side? Is that the question, Nikhil?
No, for the core engineering guys, what are the usual, I would say, job strategy that you guys could recommend to all the engineers out here? Because apart from computer science, there is a big bulk of engineering.
Yeah, there is chemical, there is civil, there is mechanical. Those core engineering jobs, how does one go there?
Yeah,
that's the question. So my take is, naturally there are companies which you know of in your field. So many of them will do campus interviews, and even if they are not doing campus interviews, then you need to approach them directly. They will have some kind of scheme. See, especially engineering companies, typically they have a graduate engineering training program or a management training program. In some name, they will take trainees. Sometimes it may happen that they are taking diploma trainees, not engineering trainees exactly. But then they will make the exceptions if you prove to them, or if you are really keen on pursuing that particular trait of yours, whether it's chemical or mechanical or electrical or any of these. So that will be my understanding. I would like to believe that these companies still visit campuses. I am not sure, but I would like to believe they do.
No, I agree. I think for us, any engineering works, Nikhil, so it doesn't. It's not really computer. I think. For example, a lot of mechanical work engineers we recruit for our R&D divisions, engineering and R&D divisions, which is another division within most of the technology companies do have engineering R&D services, and mechanical can be one of the streams. So, but if you want to be a part of the technology company today, there is no such bar in terms of whether you have to be computer engineer. There are entrance tests which one has to clear, and I think that's very common. People go to campuses. If you have interest, you just apply and you go get going. And otherwise, if you're interested in the domain, I'm sure the similar domain companies come to your schools and pick up people. Otherwise, you have to apply. You have to do that extra effort. But I don't think there's much difference right now left on those. There are very blurred lines on that.
Okay, I would definitely want Varun's view, because I think startups, I feel, is one of the key aspects to leapfrog that experience part and probably have a hands-on.
Right. If I were to add on to that, I mean, this framework which I suggest to anyone actually is, find someone who has been in your shoes, find someone who has been over there, and just find him and just ask him, like, what have you done, and just do the exact same thing. It's literally as simple as that.
Exactly. I think mentorship is really, really critical. And what most of the students misses out is talking to the alumni or talking to relevant people who've been into this industry and getting that footsteps. Because I know, like, fresher has always this ask, I don't have experience. So I think a couple of cents from my side, because I've been into mining engineering, gotten that kind of a job also. Your projects, your internships, your courses which you're doing are your assets. If you go there, and the best way, you may not have a lot of MNCs maybe hiring in your domain, but you would have certain kind of startups, incubators, accelerators. These are the places where you can find mechanical engineering based startups or any kind of niche engineering based startups. You can write to them, showcase your skills, commit to that. Probably you could start off with an internship or a training period, but then you would go ahead. But a word of disclaimer, all startups may not have a training program like a well settled MNC. So the training program gradually goes down as you move from MNC to a startup. You may find a very thorough training program with HCL, but you may not find a training program at ForeignAdmits. It's all like, how much can you hustle, how much can you learn and deliver. So go with a different mindset on that. Okay. So one very interesting question that has been asked: freshers are usually not clear what they would be doing in 2 years. A typical problem in India, because after high school, our parents are the one do engineering and then think whatever you want to do in your life. So they're usually not clear, that I have understood. How should we answer this question, and how should we even think about answering this question? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Very, I mean, I think, yeah, a lot of us ask this question, I guess, and Varun and Sanjeev can comment as well. See, the idea, I will just add on that the idea is to just get a clarity of thought of the individual. The idea is not to really understand that, he can talk about being the head of the function or a CEO of the company. I've heard people saying these answers. Idea is the clarity and the reality to the world, saying that in 5 years, do you think if you join as a management graduate or a trainee, will you become the CEO of the company? Unless and until the company is funded by your father, that's a different story. But let's live in the world of reality. So, idea is to get the clarity from the candidate's head, that what he thinks, that, and how is he clear in his mind that he wants this job and he will perform in this job to become XYZ. I think the best way to answer this is to to get better experiences and excel in the role which I am getting into, and excel in this role. Because you should also be saying that I want to change roles in next 2 years, because then the interviewer is not interested to spend time on somebody and groom that person for a role in the team. I think therefore the best answer would be give a thought, a clarity of your thought, that why I want to take up this role, and when I do this role, my intention is to become experienced, well professional in this particular domain in next few years. I think that's how I would put it, rather than jumping the gun of becoming a function head or a CEO for that matter.
So, yeah, Varun, from the startup perspective, do you guys still ask this question?
Yeah, I'm surely guilty of that. Even though I remember when I was a fresher, I had no idea what I wanted to do in 5 years. But I think, like Amrita said, if they have like too many things in their mind, where I want to do this, I might want to do that or that, then it kind of you're not sure if that person will stick around or not in that role. So that's probably a red flag which you catch when you ask this question. So I mean, obviously it's not, I wouldn't say it's fair to expect a fresher to know exactly what they'll do in 5 years, but at the same time, when you're giving that interview, you need to have that that clarity when you're answering this question. I would strongly suggest that. And when you answer this, like if you tell them that you want to be a manager, you want to be in management, you want to lead people, and all of that, then it gives you kind of an idea about which direction they want to go. And in that way, you will also kind of coach them and mentor them while they're at the company. When things go tough, you keep reminding them that, hey, this is what you wanted to do. This is, this is one of the obstacles and problems that you will have to face, and this is what's going to help you grow. So it helps. That's something I would always, whenever I have those one-on-ones with someone who I've hired, I'll always keep that in mind. I'll always make a note of what it is that they wanted to do in 5 years and bring that back to on the one-on-one. So that's that.
Interesting. I think that's a very brilliant strategy for me also to adopt it, to keep reminding them about their goals. Okay, the last question, and probably one quick answer after that.
Before that, Nikhil, let me tell you how to answer this question. 2 years or 5 years, where do you want to see? So it really depends on how you perceive the question. If the person across the table is wanting a smart answer, then obviously people can say, I will replace you in 5 years. Those kind of things they can always say. Yeah. But I would say an honest answer will be, you should say clearly that, today I'm looking at joining your company, and I hope your company will keep giving me enough growth and enough challenges which suit me. Then I'll continue in your company in 5 years. I become a manager or a CEO. It's not in my hand, and I don't expect that. Or you can take or second honest answer can be, you take an example of 2-3 other people. Say, okay, I know these people who have lived 5 years or 10 years in their career. At this stage, they wanted to become this, but now they are this. Or this person I know, he wanted to become this, now he is this. So really, I don't know how my life will shape up. It is too early for me. As a fresher, you can just be simply honest and say that, I'm expecting, I'm hoping for this to be true. But if you ask me, I don't know. See, the fact is that in 5 years, most of the people will change 3 jobs. The person across the table also knows it and understands it. So be honest and tell him, I myself don't know. If you want me to be honest, I don't know. And if you want me to really tell my expectation, this is my expectation that, I'm getting X money. I'll continue to grow to Y money, Z money, and I'll continue to get challenge and growth in the job. Why will I leave? Why is there a dearth of talent? Because obviously companies are not able to retain talent for some or other reason. So same thing, if he can put in some sweetened, tablet he has to give, that, this is the fact of life for you as well as for me. So he has to tell it in sweet words. That's all I would say.
Interesting. I think this is wonderful. And the last closing comment was amazing. So yeah, we'll close the session here. I believe for all the freshers, even the working professionals who are exploring their careers, this session would be valuable. And I hope that all 4 of us are hiring. So, and again, every good company is always in the hiring spree. So, and Sanjeev sir can also mentor you if you are looking for that hiring mentorship. And if you plan to do your master's or MBA, probably you can come to me and I can definitely help you to get that upskilling in your career. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Amrita, Varun, Sanjeev, for coming here. And it's a great pleasure to hosting this session.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Amrita,
Thank you,
Nikhil.